Hi, friends. This is Steve at newcompasscrypto.com. Thank you for joining us as we talk about Ethereum. I'm going to assume you've seen what is blockchain and what is Bitcoin. Those are two of our other webinars. If you haven't, you can go to our website, newcompasscrypto.com, and catch up before you see this one. So Ethereum is something that's fundamentally different from Bitcoin, and it was started for a very different reason. It was founded and made by Vitalik Buterin in 2014. He's a very interesting guy. He's still only 28 years old today. He made Ethereum when he was just 20 years old. He was born in Russia. He grew up in Canada. He dropped out of the University of Waterloo in Toronto. And he just became a coder. He's one of these kind of genius coders that's a bit of a savant. He's a different kind of a guy compared to someone like, let's say, an Elon Musk, who is also like a figure that has changed technical society. Vitalik is not like him at all. He is not very comfortable being upfront. He is very much a technical person. Even though he's worth today about $400 billion. He still doesn't have a permanent residence. He crashes often with his parents. He couch surfs with friends throughout the world. And he doesn't like being in the limelight at all. He doesn't get on Twitter spats with people. So he's very much in the background and very much of an idealist about what he believes Ethereum can be. He co-founded also Bitcoin magazine when he was just 17 years old. So he was very early into the Bitcoin movement. And he was there for 3 years. He eventually had issues with the way that the Bitcoin blockchain was working. He believed that the blockchain should be bigger. It should be allowed to incorporate more information. There were enough validators on the Bitcoin blockchain that voted to stay with the smaller size blockchain. So he said, you know what, I'm going to kind of found my own. And he put in there what are called smart contracts. So this is how it fundamentally differs from Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, if you recall, only has 3 pieces of information within the actual block: the encrypted address of the sender, the amount of Bitcoin, and the encrypted address of the receiver. Within Ethereum blockchain, it is a far bigger piece of information that exists in there. It is a smart contract. What's a smart contract? It is an option that is written in code within the blockchain. It can be incredibly complicated, or it can be fairly simple. But the contract becomes part of the blockchain. The parties involved are anonymous, and the contract executes itself when the conditions are met. Well, what are the conditions? The conditions can be something very simple. You have to go downtown, and you have to sit on a bench, and you have to give me 2 Ethereum. Those are 3 very simple things. Or they can be incredibly complex, pages and pages and pages and pages of text long. This gives them an awful lot of flexibility. It also gives them an awful lot of use in the practical world. So one example would be, what is the current way that we buy a house? The current way we buy a house is you have a buyer over here, and then you have a seller over here. In between them, in order for those 2 parties to come together, you have to have lawyers, you have to have insurance brokers, you have to have real estate agents, you have to have people that are bankers that are going to be checking your credit. Is there enough credit in your bank account that you're going to be able to meet all the obligations? If you ever bought a house, or if you ever refinanced a house, you'll know that in order for a buyer and a seller to reach agreement, it takes anywhere between, a very fast one is 45 days, but closer to 60 to 90 days. If you were to do that same process via the Ethereum blockchain, it works very different. The seller over here would write a series of a code about what they want that to be. The price, whether you're willing to accept inspection, whether you're willing to accept the location, any conditions that they wanted to put into a house, and they put that into a contract. They put that on the blockchain, and then any buyer anywhere in the world can say, I'm willing to meet all those conditions. Here is the amount of Ethereum that I have within the blockchain for you. And the parties come together and the contract executes immediately. So it executes without lawyers, without brokers, it executes without any middlemen whatsoever. This is wonderful. It's also very complicated and very early on in the process, but that is the theory. So the other way that Ethereum differs from Bitcoin is that Bitcoin gets verified and validated by something called proof of work. Whereas Ethereum, which used to be proof of work, has now switched to something called proof of stake. So proof of work over here relies on a lot more computational power to do all the computations, all the mining, and create a new block for the blockchain. Ethereum and proof of stake actually does something kind of different. The validating capacity it really depends on the stake in the network. And the validators don't receive a block reward. Instead, they collect transaction fees as a reward. So as over here with proof of work, the miners receive block rewards to solve a very complicated puzzle. With proof of work, if you were trying to hack the network, the hackers would need a computer powerful enough to take over 51% of the network, add a malicious block leading to a 51% attack. Over here with proof of stake, a hacker would need to own 50% of all the cryptocurrency on the entire network. And therefore, really both proof of work and proof of stake are basically impossible to hack. Now, there is something else that is different about proof of work versus proof of stake, and that is the amount of energy that each takes. Let me walk you through what Bitcoin takes per transaction versus what Ethereum takes per transaction when it was proof of work, and what it's going to take, what it's taking now when it's proof of stake. Each transaction for Bitcoin takes about as much computational power as the tallest building in the world, 830 meters, each computation. Ethereum, back when it was proof of work, each computation took about as much computational power as the Leaning Tower of Pisa, about 57 meters. Currently, now that it's switched over to proof of work, to proof of stake, each computation in Ethereum takes about the size or the height of a screw, 0.2025 millimeters. So you can see it is saving a tremendous amount of energy. Now, what are the drawbacks to both Ethereum and Bitcoin? And how far is it away from adoption in the real world? Well, Bitcoin and Ethereum are what are known as layer one blockchains. Layer one blockchains think of them as the main road that you're going to be driving on a highway. But both Bitcoin and Ethereum are fairly slow. And in order to scale, in order to get many more transactions, they have to rely on something called layer two. Layer two makes transactions faster. They are side chains. So think of them as, okay, both Ethereum right now is like a one-lane country road. A layer two is an on-ramp to a superhighway. Now that appears to be good, but the problem is that if you hear about hacks that happen in cryptocurrency, the hacks are most often in the bridges between layers 1 and 2 or layers 2 and 3. So while proof of stake and proof of work are all very secure, and while Bitcoin blockchain and Ethereum blockchain are both incredibly secure, as soon as you go off chain, as soon as you go from one roadway to another roadway, as soon as a bridge is built by these layer 2 solutions that are going to make it much faster, that are going to allow you to execute all these many more contracts with greater speed, it also allows for hackers to get in there and use them and to eventually hack them. So Ethereum and Bitcoin are two fundamentally different things. As you saw, all the information within the smart contract to buy a house could be put in within the blockchain. That doesn't happen in Bitcoin. In Bitcoin, you just say, hey, I want to buy a house or I want to sell a house. I'm willing to pay you in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is trying to be currency. Ethereum was never really founded to be currency. Yes, it can be currency within its own ecosystem. Think of it like there is currency within a video game, like World of Warcraft. You collect tokens, or other games. You collect tokens and you can spend them within the game. That was the kind of the original intent. But Ethereum was never trying to be, was not trying to replace the US dollar. It was not trying to be fiat currency. It was trying to create a practical solution to matters that existed with anything that involved contracts today. Real estate transactions, financial transactions such as your banking transactions, financial transactions such as what happens on any exchange, such as the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. That is the potential down the road of Ethereum. It is not there yet. It is, if I had to take a guess, I would say Ethereum is still 10 to 15 years from widespread adoption. Bitcoin has an advantage in that it is closer to widespread adoption for being either currency or to replace something like the value of gold, something called, store of value. That is closer to happening than Bitcoin. But ultimately, the potential for Ethereum is vast. I'm a fan of Ethereum. I'm a fan of Vitalik Buterin. He is the right kind of person to kind of lead this movement about what is happening in the future. The other thing that is fascinating about him is that a lot of people in the crypto movement are very evangelical in what they believe about decentralization. Governments are bad, corporations are bad, centralizations are bad, and decentralization and only decentralization is good. Vitalik has been in this space for a long time. He's very, very familiar with how the big Bitcoin blockchain works. He's very familiar with, obviously, he founded the Ethereum blockchain. He has lately come around and he has said, all centralization isn't bad. All regulation isn't bad. He's not saying that he wants Ethereum to be centralized, but he is understanding that in order for it to get widespread adoption, it is eventually going to have to be regulated and accepted by a wider variety of people so that it can be trusted. So that is the webinar for today. You can see it at any time at newcompasscrypto.com on our YouTube channel or on our website. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you next Tuesday. Take good care. Bye-bye.